For many years, Christy McNichol was everywhere. She was the person on TV that everyone grew up watching. She was a young actress who could make you laugh and cry in the same scene. Then, just as fast as she became famous, she disappeared. There was no big goodbye, just a quiet exit from a world that once loved her. Now, many years later, we finally know what really happened. And this is her story. Some childhood success stories in Hollywood feel way too bright and too fast to last. Christy McNichol's rise to fame was one of those stories. Before she became the girl America loved, she was just a kid growing up in Los Angeles with a mom trying hard to keep her family going. Christy grew up watching her older brother Jimmy, who was already doing commercials and small acting jobs. And like many little sisters, she followed him. Her childhood wasn't magical. It was work, real work. Her mother was raising 3 kids by herself, and the entertainment business became how they survived. Christy often said later that she didn't really get to be a kid. She went from school to auditions, from auditions to filming, and back home with scripts to learn. But even with all that pressure, her talent grew. One of the first things people noticed about Christy was how real she was. She wasn't stiff or fake. She spoke like a real kid. She reacted like a real kid. Directors loved her because she didn't seem like she was acting. She just was herself. And that realness set the stage for the role that would define her entire young life. Her big break came with the TV drama series Family. She played Letitia Buddy Lawrence, the youngest daughter in an everyday American family. The role needed real emotion from someone who was barely a teenager. Yet Christy gave performances with depth that even experienced adult actors found hard to reach. She didn't play Buddy as a simple character. She played her with many layers, feeling unsure, curious, jealous, hopeful, and scared. Right away, audiences connected with her. There was something raw about how she showed vulnerable moments. She wasn't afraid of crying on screen. She wasn't afraid to look angry, confused, or stressed out. Viewers saw themselves in her. Critics did too. The praise came quickly. Christy won an Emmy Award at an age when most kids were still learning basic math. Then she won another one. She became the emotional heart of the show. It was rare for a teenager to become the center of a primetime show. But Christy did just by being honest. Her sudden fame didn't come with the protection most child stars need. She was a teenager dealing with fame without privacy or a slow introduction to the pressures of being a household name. Interviews, public expectations, and a tough filming schedule all came down on a girl still figuring out who she was. Her mother did her best to help her, and her brother Jimmy often stepped in to protect her. But fame doesn't slow down for anyone. By the time Family made her a national star, producers were already thinking about what she could do in movies. Her talent was undeniable. Where a TV schedule allowed it, Christy moved into film work. Her film breakthrough came with Little Darlings, a coming-of-age story that paired her with another teen star, Tatum O'Neal. The movie was about 2 girls at summer camp who make a bet. While the basic story got headlines, it was Christy who gave the film its emotional power. She played a girl pretending to be tougher than she really was, hiding loneliness behind tough talk. It was a performance filled with small details that left audiences amazed. Then came Only When I Laugh, where she played a troubled teenager dealing with her recovering alcoholic mother. Her performance earned a Golden Globe nomination and proved that Christy could handle any type of role. But Hollywood success rarely comes without problems, especially for young performers. Behind the scenes, Christy was struggling. The workload that seemed okay when she was a child became too much as she became a teenager. She carried huge pressure on her shoulders. She often said she was a perfectionist, someone who wanted to give everything to every role. But giving everything came with a price. During film shoots, she began showing signs of emotional exhaustion, sleepless nights, anxiety, overwhelming stress, and moments of deep sadness she didn't understand yet. Her co-stars sometimes noticed her mood changes or tiredness, but child stars were expected to push through it. The culture back then rarely talked about mental health. So Christy did what she had always done. She buried it. She kept working. She kept smiling. In interviews, she later said that she almost never had time to breathe. Fame followed her everywhere. The pressure to keep up her image never stopped. She felt constantly watched and judged. It was strange for someone who wanted simple things: quiet, privacy, normal friendships, a chance to be herself without people watching. During a really difficult time, while filming in another country, Christy went through what she later called a complete emotional breakdown. The pressures of work, combined with loneliness and public expectation, became too much. She reached a breaking point where she could not go on. The breakdown forced her to leave the production and go home. As her teenage years ended, Christy found herself balancing two versions of herself. One was the actress loved by millions. The other was a young woman trying to understand why fame didn't feel as good as people thought it should. When her film career began to slow down, she was pulled back toward television. In the late 80s, producers of a new NBC sitcom called Empty Nest reached out to her. The show was a spin-off connected to the Golden Girls. It was about a widowed pediatrician and his two adult daughters who moved back home. Christy was cast as Barbara Weston, the spirited police officer who brought humor and warmth to the show. It was different from the complicated teenagers she had often played. Barbara was older, more confident, and witty. Audiences immediately responded to her. Working on Empty Nest gave Christy stability. The regular schedule let her stay close to family and friends. The cast became like a community, and the environment was warm and welcoming. But what viewers couldn't see was the internal battle she had been fighting for years. Behind the cheerful performances, Christy was proud. Family members later shared that during this time, Christy would sometimes avoid social events, cancel plans, or disappear into long stretches of being alone. People who knew her tried to help, but there wasn't language around mental health like there is today. Terms like bipolar disorder were rarely said. In Hollywood, admitting mental health challenges could hurt a career. So Christy hid what she could. While the show continued its success, the pressure became unbearable. She later revealed that she could feel her emotional stability slipping. Her mood would swing violently without warning. Her energy would disappear for days. Her thoughts would race at night, then fall silent and heavy the next morning. She felt trapped inside a cycle she did not understand. Everything came to a breaking point during the early 90s. After years of trying to manage her symptoms in silence, Christy received a diagnosis. She was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, a condition that explained the extreme mood swings, the periods of deep depression, the episodes of high energy, and the unpredictable emotional instability. The diagnosis gave her a name for what she had gone through, but it also made her painfully aware that continuing in entertainment might no longer be possible. In 1992, Christy made one of the most difficult decisions of her life. She stepped away from Empty Nest and announced she was leaving to focus on her health. There were no dramatic interviews. She simply disappeared from public view. Fans were confused and heartbroken. Because mental health was still deeply misunderstood, few knew what she was truly going through. But those who knew her personally praised her strength. They called it one of the bravest decisions she ever made. Despite stepping away in '92, Christy returned one final time to appear in the series finale in 1995. It was a gesture of gratitude to the show. Her presence in the final episode felt like a farewell to Hollywood itself. After leaving Empty Nest, Christy did what few stars ever had the courage to do. She stepped back from the spotlight completely. She didn't chase new roles or try for a comeback. She chose normal life. During the late 90s, Christy slowly came back in small ways. She accepted a few voice acting roles, lending her voice to animated projects. These jobs let her work without the pressures of being on screen. Voice acting was peaceful and quiet, exactly what she needed. But even those limited roles felt like a pull back into a world she had worked hard to escape. So in 2001, Christy McNichol announced she was retiring from acting completely. In her public statement, she said she was ready to stop acting and focus on playing her biggest part, herself. It was a beautiful thought. After decades of playing other people, she needed to learn who she was outside of scripts and cameras. The statement connected with fans because it felt sincere and hopeful. Her retirement marked a turning point. She began teaching acting classes, sharing her experience with young students. She volunteered and did charity work without publicity. She embraced a life that felt private and real. For someone who had spent nearly her entire life in front of cameras, the shift to a quiet existence was huge. Christy moved away from the public eye almost entirely. Her name rarely showed up in headlines. She didn't go to red carpets. She didn't do interviews. The young star who once carried emotional stories on her shoulders traded that world for peace. For years, Christy lived quietly. But in 2012, she spoke publicly in a way that surprised many. For the first time, Christy openly shared that she was a lesbian and introduced her longtime partner, Marty Allen, to the world. Her decision to come out was not for attention. She did it to support young people being bullied for their identity. She wanted them to see someone who had lived a full life.